first of all.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you both very much for being with us today and for your presentation and the work you did on your study for the government. Perhaps I'd start with you, Minister McLellan. We've heard evidence from medical professionals, but in particular from experts in jurisdictions where recreational cannabis is already legal, that the THC content in cannabis products available for sale on the legal market continues to rise at an alarming rate. For example, Dr. Bo Kilmer told our committee earlier this week that in Washington State, the average THC content for dried cannabis is now over 20%, with some vapor products as high as 75%. I was concerned to read on page 24 of the task force report that currently, quote, there is insufficient evidence to identify a safe THC potency limit. Dr. Kilmer suggested to our committee that Canada could impose a potency cap on products until more is known about the health effects of high-potency THC products, similar to the approach taken by Uruguay. What are the dangers of proceeding with legalization without any set limit on THC for dried cannabis?
Thank you very much, Senator. And in fact, we did directly consider the whole question of whether we should put a cap on potency in light of what's happening. Certainly the plants being grown today are not your grandmother's or grandfather's plants. And we looked at a range of factors. There is a market for high-potency cannabis, certainly with medicinal patients. Higher potency, they use less of the product. So there is a market for higher potency. If that market is not filled by the legal market, I can assure you it will be filled by the illegal market, thereby undermining one of the main objectives of this public policy change. The other thing we believe is that with public education, and that's why if you look at the packaging of product, but more general, not only the packaging regs, but public education generally in terms of higher potency product and what that means in terms of use and how you should be using it, that we believe it is on balance better not to provide that cap, because all that means is the black market, the illegal market will fill that. But Doctor, you might...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know I have 5 minutes. But
Yeah.
I just want to ask you about a recommendation you made, because you did advise your advice to ministers. You say the task force recommends that the federal government develop strategies to encourage consumption of less potent cannabis,
Yes.
including a price and tax scheme based on potency to discourage purchase of high-potency products.
Right. Yes, we did, because especially we don't want young people starting to use higher potency products. Mm-hmm. So what we suggested, and in fact it was based on a conversation we had with Dr. Kilmer, that in fact in this country we could do something that in the U.S. they hadn't done, which is set your differential tax limits on the basis of potency. Mm-hmm. And therefore your younger consumer, who generally has fewer financial resources, will buy the lower potency product with the lower price point, the lower tax point, and the higher potency product will be used by those for medicinal purposes or those who choose to use but have greater financial means.
So do you think that the fact that the government hasn't taken up your recommendation results in a missed opportunity for harm reduction?
I wouldn't say it's a missed opportunity. I would say that it was in relation to the taxation, higher potency. That was a novel approach. Nobody else has tried it who has legalized. We suggested to the government that might be one of the harm reduction strategies and one of the incentives for young people not to go to a higher potency product. But I would be the first to say it's actually complex to get right in terms of the actual structure of that tax.
Did the government give you a reason for not accepting that recommendation?
No, certainly not as far as I know, no.
Okay.
I think probably simplification of the tax code was why Minister Morneau went with a more traditional excise tax.
Thank you.
Well, there it is, a good example of 4 questions, 4 answers in 5